Hello everyone and welcome to TV30, a production of the Government Information Service. My name is Natalie Jolie Fanas and today I am here to talk about libraries as we are on the verge of celebrating Library Week in St. Lucia and globally. And joining me today are two very able librarians, and we will be talking about issues concerning libraries as well as their plans for Library Week. It is my pleasure to welcome Mrs. Kathy Birch-McDiarmed, who is the librarian at the Hunter J. Fossoir Library at the South Louis Community College, as well as Ms. Sonia Rees, who is the president of the National Association of Libraries and Information in St. Lucia, and she will give us the clear acronym. Ladies, welcome and thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you, Natalie.
I always find it interesting when young-looking gorgeous ladies like you decide to become librarians. That, you know, we have a concept of librarians as these little old ladies, you know. So I'm interested in finding out about your journey in libraries. Let me start with you, Mrs. McDiarmed.
Thank you, Natalie. Interesting that you would say about the old ladies and libraries. So we have debunked that myth long time. So apart from librarians having a certain look, I would hope that my colleague and I have managed to debunk that myth, right? So where did it begin with for me as a librarian? So I entered the field in 1995 as a young school leaver. I left Sir Arthur Lewis in 1991. Don't try to guess my age.
Oops.
And you know, as a young person, your second job, you're not sure what you want to do as yet. And so I started working at the South Louis Community College at the Hunter J. Fossoir Library back in 1995. And the rest is history. 30 years later, I am now the head librarian, and I have developed a love for the profession. And it's just not the library profession. I like to refer to it as the information and library profession. And I've worked my way through the various departments, and a library has lots of different departments. People still think it's just about books and librarians just check in and check out books. Those who have a solid understanding of our work would have a better appreciation of the breadth of our work and our jobs. But we're happy to have those conversations that enlighten people about our work and the value of what we do.
And we'll definitely want to get into that.
Yes.
So let me congratulate you on your 30th anniversary,
Thank you,
work
Natalie.
anniversary. And Ms. Rees, you are currently the president of the National Association of Librarians. Tell us a little more about that.
Okay, so I became president a few months ago. And what I understand about the association is that it is there for advocacy and also to promote the librarianship as a profession. And as Kathy did say, it's also about information professionals. As myself, I'm not a straight and straightforward in-the-box librarian, but I work around information spaces, and recently it actually expanded to data, and we know data somehow is the new oil, but we as librarians know these things existed long before maybe even the technology could pick up what data is and how people can manipulate data. So basically NALIP, which is the National Association of Libraries and Information Professionals, I know it's a mouthful of St. Lucia, but so we'll use NALIP. We're here to advocate, we're here to upskill, we're here to educate not only our persons as a profession, but also the persons and the citizens and the residents of St. Lucia.
Excellent. What is your the your body like, the association? About how many members do you have?
Okay, so currently I believe, and I don't have exact figures of course on me, but I believe we have around 30 to 40 persons across the island who are involved in library work. Some of them may be professionally certified and qualified. Some persons have been in the profession and they have the experience, they have the interest, they may or may not be certified. So it's around that. It's a small island. And of course, we have many of the library workers that may be involved in the St. Lucia Public Library, which is Central Library as we call it. So a lot of them are involved in that particular library network. But of course, there would be librarians in special libraries, academia, corporate, etc., and schools.
Very interesting. So given that you're speaking about the professionals, Mrs. McDiarmed, I wonder if you could speak to the state of libraries in St. Lucia. When we think of libraries, I know we first thinking of a physical space, and Ms. Rees alluded to the different types of library professionals. So can you give us a sense of what libraries in St. Lucia are today?
Okay, that's a great question, Natalie. So I want to first begin by providing sort of like a definition of the different types of libraries that exist in our country. And so we have the academic and school libraries. And as you know, Hunter J. Faswa Library is the academic library that serves the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College. The various schools around the island have school libraries, some existing, some no longer existing. Some of them have been transformed into, from what I understand, resource centers. And then we have the special libraries.
Can I stop you here?
Right.
How important is, I shouldn't ask how important, is it mandatory that an academic institution have a library?
Okay, so you use the word mandatory, and I think I want to be a little careful here. It's an issue of great concern and interest to me. And what we did try to do was to find somewhere in the Education Act that mandated that, and I could not find it. So we've been doing the research to try to find out whether the school library system actually legally forms part of the education system. I cannot find that piece of legislation as yet.
But
however,
should it?
My personal opinion is that every school should have a school library as part of the education system for that particular library. We know that we have our different levels, primary school, secondary, and your tertiary level. The research has shown and continues to show that students perform better where school libraries exist in that particular school. The research is there. I think we started off historically with all schools having school libraries, to the best of my knowledge. I stand corrected, right? But something happened over time, and I don't know if it is the shift in how we find information with the advancements in technology. But what we know as information professionals is that technology cannot replace the value, the work, the mission, the function of an academic library. What the library is supposed to do is use that technology to enhance and modernize its services and its offerings and its collections. Have they been able to do so successfully over the years? I'm not sure. And maybe that is the reason why we see this downturn, right? And maybe that's why they, you know, this is what we can observe in terms of the diminishing importance of school libraries in the education system. At the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, I can tell you that it is critical that the college have an academic library. So much so, if you come down to accreditation, it's one of the things that the Accreditation Council would look for, the presence of of your academic library. What does this mean? Does it mean that you need to have 4 walls to operate? Does it mean that you can have a digital library or virtual library and still pass? I mean, we can talk a lot about that, but I'm sure you have a question
we can get to that
for
eventually.
me where that is concerned. So yes, so the school library, the special library supports the private sector. I know at one time the Chamber of Commerce had a library, not too sure what happened there. You know, you have the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, Parliament has its library, NTN Studios has its own library.
Okay. So these are special libraries.
These are special libraries, right, with a particular focus and a targeted group of patrons that they serve. Yeah, so that's it. In terms of where they are and what their position is, we are not sure as an organization. I think that's something NALIP would need to investigate and do some research to see, you know, how are libraries doing, how are they functioning. The public library system is the main one with 17 branches, a branch in each constituency.
That currently exist?
That currently exists. There is a public library that exists in every constituency on the island. As to the state of these public libraries, I don't think I'm in a position to speak to that, but I can tell you that they are in need of assistance. They are in need of funding. The reason why many people, I think, frown upon our library system is the fact that libraries have not advanced. They're not modernized. I can admit that openly. We have not modernized our library system. So why have we not modernized our library system? You know, the simple answer to that question is lack of funding. You must have the funding in order to modernize. Librarians know what to do. We know what to do to modernize those spaces and make it welcoming and to draw the public in. But we cannot do that without the requisite funds. And my colleague in the public library, you know, she was telling me, she was lamenting that the fact that they have not received a budget for their library collection in years, if ever, for the resources. Even if your resources are print or electronic, you still need funds to build relevant collections. I'll stop here.
I was about to say, you actually gave us the right segue. Why aren't people drawn to libraries? And the theme, I understand, for Library Week 2025 is drawn to the library.
Yes.
So let me hand over to Ms. Rees and just give us a sense of, I know this is a global theme. So in terms of what you expect the impact to be in St. Lucia, just speak to that theme for us.
Okay, so when I think about being drawn to the library, and the point I'm going to make, I brought it up in a forum, I think that we had either last year or whenever, I can't remember. But as we age, or should I say, as we get older, our relationship with reading is going to change. Our relationship with libraries, information repositories, whatever you want to call it, technology, Google, is going to change. So, but for us, we need to just re-emphasize the profession that we do. Information just does not organize itself. Sometimes we are the ones who get the information, we sanitize, we organize, we create it into consumable bits to the right audiences and publics will consume, right? So when we say drawn to the library, we want the persons, the right people to be drawn at the right time to the right information. Now, I may not walk into the public library to get any information. However, within that profession, I can assist, I could guide, I could, teach, I could educate. Okay, this is how. Even for example, persons might say, oh, I could find that on Google. I've had many times where persons have tried to do searches and they weren't able to find the information because of the skill of search. So I said, you know what, you just have to tweak, use the right keywords. Maybe you're searching in the wrong pool of information or the wrong location. And boom, there comes the information. And it's not that I'm a magician, but because we are skilled in putting this information together, organizing it and organizing it for the right people at the right time, the right publics. We want people to be continuously drawn to whatever library they are accessing. Mm-hmm. It could be something online, it could be a free library, it could be a paying library, it could be the central library, public library, you walk in, you know, it could be the community library. Yes?
So I know every year, at least for the last few years, you all have really been shining a light on libraries. I don't remember that being the case, I don't know, in the last 10 years or so. And with that theme, are there any strategies, Mrs. McDiarmed in particular, that you will use to draw individuals to the library, especially in this year?
Okay. So actually, Natalie, National Library Week has been celebrated for over 20 years. It actually started, I believe, with the public library system. So they have been celebrating National Library Week. I think what's happened now is that there's a wider scale of participation from the various sectors of information organizations and libraries. So maybe that's why people hear a little bit more, you know, now than previously. Your question was what draws people to the library?
Yes. What strategies are libraries using?
Right. So, as you know, Natalie, Hunter J. Fasua Library has been operating without its four walls from 2016. So we lost our building in 2016, and we occupy a space in the Innovation Hub on campus. That space is far from ideal, if I can be blatantly honest. It's far from ideal for our patrons, and our patrons are mainly students. However, what we have been able to do, and I think rather successfully, is to create innovative programs and initiatives that draw our students in. So I like the theme this year. It's relevant and it's timely. And so co-curricular activities that relate to the curriculum, help support the curriculum, we support that quite heavily. And so our library has activities like, Author Talks, which we launched recently, where we invite authors, local authors, to come in and to have conversations with our students. And at times, people from the general public would come in and participate in those author talks, where the authors share the creative writing process, and of course what inspires them to write their books and so on. So Author Talks is a fantastic initiative that draws people in. We have been hosting our Word of Poetry Slam for some years now. 2011 was our first, and we continue to have this annual Poetry Slam. It draws students in and others to our library. Word Up has become a home brand, a house brand if you wish, and it's a platform that we're very proud of as a college, a platform that allows students who are not necessarily interested in English literature per se, but they have this creative talent within themselves, and so it creates that platform for them to showcase their literary skills. We also have several other co-curricular activities, and I think the main one is our information literacy programming. With our information literacy program, we support our lecturers by developing the information literacy skills of our students. And it's what Sonia touched on earlier in terms of when persons come into the library, into libraries and information centers, they know that they can be assured of getting that kind of support that teaches them how to find information, how to use the information, and how to evaluate the information that they find online and elsewhere. I think often we take it for granted that people know what to do with information, how to even know what it is they're looking for, you know, and you know, just beyond academia as well, because we know within academia, you must first help the students understand what exactly is the information needed if they're given the assignments and so on. How do you dissect your thesis statements, right? That is the work of librarians supporting lecturers in the classroom, part of the information literacy workshopping, right? So you help them understand what it is they're required to look for. You help them find and locate the information. We need our students and our researchers and our people to understand credible information and how to be able to differentiate between fake content and real content, especially in this age. And I can segue right into artificial intelligence and AI, because what AI will do for you, right? They use the algorithms too, and the search engines as well, to place at the top of the list what they believe is the most credible content, but really and truly it isn't. And we know how our college students, information-seeking behavior, we know how our college students, and even below that, how they operate in terms of their information-seeking behavior. They will search for information, and Google is one of the most popular tools that they use, and they stop at the top. Yep. They don't go beyond and go deeper down the search list. They stop at the top, and as a lecturer, Nasli, you know, they will copy and paste that first set of information and put it into the paper, right? But we now step in as an academic library, and every single student, right, participates in the information literacy workshop. And so we teach those students those critical skills of how to search for information effectively, how to evaluate the information that you get, and then how to use it ethically.
That's another component. But what I'm hearing is that you have taken on a responsibility for educating. You have taken responsibility for drawing in with co-curricular, as you call it. How much of that we see implemented at Hunter J. Fossois do you think could be replicated in our public and community library systems? And is there a plan for those kinds of activities to draw people into the library? I hope I'm not putting you guys on the spot, but just in evaluating, Mr. Rees?
I'm here listening to, because I wasn't aware that you had an information literacy, but I'm not a student of SAAFA, of course. But I'm sitting here thinking, we need to educate the public, because people say, oh, I did my research. And sometimes the research, they didn't check the source, they didn't check the date. Sometimes people share videos on YouTube or Facebook or wherever. Oh, this just happened. And I'm like, look at the timestamp that happened 5 years ago. You all are misinforming the public.
Definitely.
So definitely, we need these type of skills. Remember a long time, and I'll just go back here a little bit, long time, 20, 25 years ago or 30 years ago, when computers are now coming out and people were doing computer literacy, we need to do some digital literacy, right? In terms of, you know, just as you said, not doing a deeper search, going on social media and just misinforming by non-ethically sharing information that most likely is not true, looking at sources. And I think we need to do that for the public. I really, really think so. And that may go even beyond libraries. I think that should be a skill, maybe just taught, well, back to schools, education, because being a librarian, being an information professional is about educating. It's about building up. It's about what they call it, edutaining sometimes, that entertainment and education.
Yes, how do you marry
because
the
we
two?
have these really short attention spans. We don't want to watch a video more than 2 minutes, 3 minutes sometimes, and then we just get bored and we're ready to move on to some more content, doom scrolling, etc. So this is something that is required, and I think it could go beyond
Academic libraries.
academic. It could go even as starting from primary schools, and even for persons out of school, for the general public, definitely yes.
Definitely. So in this digital world, there's a lot of literacy, information literacy, that is needed. And I mean, I hear you speak about the different types of libraries. How I'm wondering if you should rename them too. You've been using a synonym, information. You straddle between the two words. Do you think that will make a difference in this information age, whether there's a shift in the nomenclature, as we say, of libraries? How are you going to function in this digital age?
So, Sonia, if you don't mind, I think
Sure,
I'll
sure.
take that question. So, my personal opinion on this is that we do not change who we are to suit the environment. I am a librarian, and I am a proud librarian. You could call me what you want, right?
Information
professional, whatever suits you. Information consultant, knowledge creator, but my profession is librarian. I work at the Hunter J. Faswa Library at the South Louis Community College. We recently developed the Derek Walcott Library, okay? A national symbol. I want to call it a national symbol. I don't see us changing the names of other important institutions just because technology has taken a swing at, the relevant institution. An accounting firm is an accounting firm is an accounting firm. A hospital is a hospital, right? A school is a school. A library is a library, and we need to stand by that and understand that. What we need is for the persons with the pockets to fund the modernization of these important institutions. The library is an institution in its own right. Librarians and information professionals have the skill sets and know what is required to modernize those spaces. All we need is the supports, right? Imagine a library, Natalie, that resembles a Starbucks cafe. And Starbucks isn't even what it used to be, right? We need to think about how our public has changed. The persons who consume information now require different settings in order to consume that information. People want relaxed atmospheres, down to the spaces that once what we thought of libraries is no more. We have those wooden tables and those hard seats simply because it is what we have, but is it ideal? No, it's not. I can guarantee you if we transform those spaces, the libraries, people will be flocking libraries. When you have your public libraries in each community, it's not inviting, Natalie. You come in, wooden doors, you come in, hard furniture, dark spaces, old books on a shelf. How does that entice young people to leave the block or to leave home and say, Mom, I'm going to the library? We
definitely have to work on that.
We have work to do.
Ladies, you would not believe our time is quickly coming to an end. I just want to throw it back to Ms. Rees as we close off to just bring to the attention of the public what activities that you will be having for Library Week that will draw people into the library.
Okay. So we made a little tweak this year. Libraries Week is normally the first week of April, but because of unforeseen accommodations, it has moved from April 27th to May 2nd. So we normally start off with an opening service, and that's going to be happening at the Cathedral on Sunday the 27th of May. We have Outreach Day, Monday and Tuesday of that week, April 28th to 29th. Wednesday, we have a special day just for us, not the public. But library workers day where we network, we eat, we award, we recognize persons who have made contributions within the profession. And then on Friday, we have our annual symposium where we as knowledge managers, information managers, co-create and create new knowledge by having an annual symposium where we come to present papers and we talk everything library. Great. So this is what's going on. We're excited.
It sounds exciting. I wish we had more time to talk about some of the other issues, but I hear the challenges, resources to modernize libraries, definitely coming out of that. And we understand the importance of information literacy in St. Lucia, throughout the world, but definitely we want to start here. So I want to wish you a very successful Library Week, April 27th to May 2nd, and I really hope that more people in 2025 and beyond are drawn to the library. You've been watching TV30 with my guests, librarians Birch-McDiarmed and Sonia Rees. Thank you so much for joining us. Visit a library today.